Hey everyone, this is Dylan from Brave New Bar and BeerMenus.com. The interview you're about to watch is with Kyle Scherrer from Backpack Brands. They're a New York-based company that produces Graft Cider, Hudson North Cider Company, and Ritual Hard Kombucha. In the interview, Kyle is going to talk about how you can move more cider at your bar or restaurant by leaning into comfort, nostalgia, and seasonality. He's also going to talk about how cider as a segment weathered the gigantic hard seltzer storm over the last few years and how he thinks it's actually positioned for some pretty serious growth. And he's also going to get into hard kombucha market where he thinks that's headed. So I hope you enjoy the interview. As always, please subscribe to this YouTube channel to get notified when we drop new interviews. That happens about once a week. And then also head over to bravenewbar.com to subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. It's the only newsletter designed for bars, restaurants, and breweries that have rotating selections. So this far, we've got about 10,000 industry folks subscribed. All of them are keeping their bar ahead of the curve with the newsletter. It's always got trending beer data. It's got cutting edge expert advice from interviews like this, and then we also always include a bunch of news from around the industry and some humorous stuff too. So enjoy the interview. See you next time.
Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
anything like about current or like existing state of like cider or the hard kombucha market that you think would be interesting or important to know for bar managers, bar owners, that kind of stuff? Like most of the people who are going to get this newsletter, they have ciders, but they don't have anything beyond probably your competitors in Hudson North.
Yeah,
Maybe they like get in something from DuPont or something if it's like a fancy thing. But
totally.
like um
Yeah.
so like even cider they're not going to be super knowledgeable about. So
I think cider's in an interesting place right now. And I think there's a couple of things that lead into why cider still is a category worth caring about. Um, you had asked earlier about the advent of hard seltzer and how that affected the industry. Um,
mhm.
while I don't think it's a direct competitor with craft, it is very much a direct competitor with other hard ciders. And I think what hard seltzer did in a positive way is it brought more people into light beverages, right? When you're
Mhm.
drinking a beer, it's more malt driven, it's heavier, you feel it, and you get full faster, depending on who you are.
Right.
Um, and with cider, it's allowing people that were drinking beer before to, once they're done with hard seltzer, like, all right, I want something a little more flavorful, going into cider. The other benefit of cider is it's made from fruit, it's made from apples, something that's very ingrained into the Americana culture from childhood. American is apple pie is a
Right.
saying for a reason. Um, but I think the other piece that's kind of come up is if there's more light beverages on the market, if there's not only hard seltzers, there's these vodka sodas like High Noon, stuff like that. What is cider kind of occupy now in the consumer's heart, because it's not just light beverage. And I think comfort and nostalgia is really where hard cider is going to see its wins. We've already seen that, especially with a lot of the fall products, like
Right.
cider donuts now a category out of nowhere. Like we even considered doing cider donut for either a 6 month seasonal or year round. Um, Pumpkin ciders are through the freaking roof. I mean, the amount of pumpkin cider we sell with Hudson North, I think it's our number one seasonal by a long shot.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, well, pumpkin is like this
Yeah.
like wave, and then it goes back, and then it comes back up. I think just there's this huge fatigue on pumpkin, and now people are like, all right, yeah, I remember I like that stuff. And I think that like that spiced apple thing is just like there's so many flavors within that, but that nostalgia that you get, you're sitting around a campfire, you're drinking this like spice thing, you're out picking apples, you see the fall leaves, and I think that comfort, especially as after we came through COVID and all that, is really where cider differentiates itself from any other product out there. So I do see it staying as like, I think it's a good year-round product, but where I really see it having extremely strong numbers is the fall time. And traditionally for us, our spring summer was really really strong, but I just see fall numbers and the seasonals you can put out in fall to kind of address that comfort, that warming
Right.
scent is going to be huge for your standard ciders. And then of course you got craft, which is like sour beer alternative, more for like people that are celiacs or looking for something that light beverage category, low sugar, but with flavor innovation. And then for hard kombucha, I think again that's coming on. We talk about hard seltzer a lot, but it became such a large percentage of the industry in such a short period of time. I mean, it eclipsed craft beer production 2-1 in like 3 years, where it took craft
What?
beer 20 years
Wow.
like that, which is just absolutely. I mean, when I was first seeing the numbers when it was just starting to become a thing, you like look at the blood, sweat, and tears of all these craft breweries trying to build this industry, trying to build it.
Right.
Hard seltzer comes in 3 years, it's double the size. You're like, oh my god, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see, that if especially someone that's been that, it's such a labor of love. And I actually was in a talk recently, and they were saying one of the biggest problems of craft beer is they're fighting themselves. Their antics are always to say we're not big beer, and they the person made a point that the fastest growing category right now is liquor.
Mm-hmm.
Liquor and wine still staying strong, but like liquor and that kind of stuff is still like growing, which is like super interesting. So I think in a way we're tied to beer and what's going on in the hard seltzer world, but I think there's also, for the right consumer, a very strong departure, and I think there's a lot to be said about fads going on right now, like hard seltzer. It's not going away, but I think the hype is gone, and I think you're going to see these hype waves move faster. Is hard kombucha a hype wave? I think it is to an extent, but I still think there's so much education that can happen on the East Coast. I mean, the West Coast, I mean, the amount of, it almost blew up like hard seltzer. I think hard kombucha has a really great parallel to cider, into how big hard kombucha got overnight, versus like on a regional level, what cider makers like working, labor of love, educating, and then something comes in details as an alternative hard seltzer product, and they're in the top 20 producers, because Nielsen data still puts hard kombucha in the cider metrics, and there's 3 hard kombucha producers in top 20 cideries in the US as of last year or the year before that, and they're just dumping tons and tons of marketing dollars to convert people.
Oh yeah, I mean, the number of June Shine ads I've heard on podcasts is insane.
Yeah. So is there going to be longevity, or are they just trying to sell, grow it and sell it? I think it's the latter, but will the consumer be there once the dollar noise goes down?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like you were saying before about the people who want the kombucha, like that's a market that's not going anywhere. Like that's a lifestyle that like ends up with you wanting kombucha instead of hard seltzer or something, because every other facet of your life, you're growing organic tomatoes in your garden, you're going to Whole Foods or the co-op to get your vegetables.
100%.
Of course you're going to be doing the hard kombucha
when
it comes to the lighter beverages.
Yeah, and I mean, they've definitely set the barrier to entry as you have to be organic. Like right out of the gate, like that's, if you're not organic, then why are you even in this category, kind of thing, which is interesting. I mean, again, I think the hard kombucha drinker is on average probably the most educated demographic out there, hands down. So I think you're going to see it continue to win in big cities, especially more like liberal leaning cities, which all cities are more liberal than not, but in the ones where they're really, they have really, it's like a Whole Food index. Like how many Whole Foods do you have in your city? That's how much hard kombucha is being consumed there.
Yeah, direct relationship there, not an inverse.
Exactly.
So okay, so we're kind of getting into it again here, but it's like the second group of questions I had was kind of like a tactical thing for people who are not used to having, I guess I'd call it like adventurous cider that Graf produces, or certainly not having hard kombuchas. So do you have like a playbook or some kind of tactics for like how someone who's a bartender or a bar manager, somebody, one of your accounts or whatever, how they could talk about it to make it sound attractive to a beer drinker, a wine drinker, a seltzer drinker?
Yeah, I mean, so we have three brands, and each one has its own, I guess, playbook, if you will.
Yeah.
For craft, I mean, first off, you know, if you love craft beer but are now celiacs, that's the easiest conversion right there. That's like
Right.
bread and butter conversion. But one thing we really try to do with craft products is make the verbiage enticing. So like we like our seasonals, and we try to do everything based on seasonality. So like a mezcal margarita cider for the summer. We
Right.
have an old fashioned inspired cider for the fall. We have an alpine Negroni for the winter, and we have
Oh.
a Paloma Fizz for the spring. So I think you're like, oh, this is a really interesting flavor, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a lower sugar option. It's tart and dry, so it's really light. It's a hot day, you're sweating, like you don't want a pilsner or like a super sweet IPA right now. Maybe you want something a little lighter to kind of fit the mood, or maybe you're cutting back on your calories, you're going more keto. It's a great way of kind of getting the alcohol without all the sugar. And I think one of the things that we do really well with craft is, even though we're low sugar, being very full flavored and really making sure that whatever our descriptors are being matched with the flavor profiles that we're giving to you. I've always been like, if you say something on a label, you have to taste it. Otherwise, don't put it on the label.
Totally.
And then with Hudson North, again, that's like, we do, I wrote it down. We do 18 different SKUs with that brand a year right now. A lot of it is the Adventure Series, just like our 16 ounce. That's how we delineate. We have 6-pack, 12 ounce for seasonals and core, and then 16 ounce one offs that change every month. Again, seasonality. I mean, we just did Rocket Pop, which
nice.
was a distributor push that I was like really reticent against. God damn, did it sell. Same with the cider donut. I think both of our best sellers were like things they're pushing on us. I'm like, all right, nothing tastes better than money, I guess. So we'll keep making it as long as it sells. But I think building into nostalgia and exciting flavors is something that we always do. Like, we're just following trends, like with craft as well. Like when I'm looking up new styles, because we do so many styles, like Google's a massive resource for me. Like,
right.
I'll find something I'm like a trend I'm excited, like Amaros, and then I'll just go down, like I'll look up what Amaro cocktails are being made, what styles of Amaros are there, what fruits have they been using with them, and just like what woods have they been using, what else have people been doing on the craft side, and then how can we incorporate that into how we make our ciders. So it's the ability to follow trends, but then get your information extremely quickly. I mean, we live in the YouTube generation of everything's DIY. So it's a great time for flavor creators. I think one of the reasons why you're seeing so much kind of coming out. And then on the hard kombucha side, I mean, the biggest thing I think is it's a hard seltzer alternative right now, or it's a hard tea alternative. You want something a little healthier. You want something that's organic. You want something that has probiotics. That's the beverage for you.
Everything something that's new right now too, like for a lot of the country.
Yeah, it's the excitement of it. Like, oh, I know what kombucha is. Well, have you had hard kombucha? It's a little more. It's not as tart or sour as people would think. It's a little more closer to a fermented tea than I would say to a like vinegary kombucha, which I think that we as producers we had to make that thing, because it's like a step. Like, if this is hard seltzer and then this is regular kombucha, hard kombucha kind of fits right in the middle, I think, flavor wise, is what a lot of producers are going for right now.
Got it.
So it's not an extreme jump, but it sounds enticing and it sounds healthy, and it gets people that want to only have maybe 2 drinks and want something that's a little better for you and don't want to be hungover the next day, want something 0 sugar or low sugar. It's a great option.
Got it.
And it's more crafted too. I mean, it's not fermented sugar with into it.
What do you think about all the the seltzers that breweries, like smaller breweries, craft breweries, are making? Have you had any of those?
Smooges of the world. Yeah, look, there's something for everybody, and I think it's a great parallel to craft beer drinkers that were already drinking these super heavily fruited, sweet, you know, sours, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same concept, just using a different base. And
Yeah.
I think it pulls a little from the hard seltzer drinker, but I think it more pulls from the hype brewery
Yeah.
drinker that now they want something like more seltzery, more in vogue flavor profiles. I think that, I don't got anything bad to say about them. They're not my cup of tea, but neither
Yeah,
is
me neither.
not a lot of the sweet hazy IPAs were cool to me past the first year where I was like, oh wow, this is like I've never had something like this before. And after that, I'm like, all right, well, this is like, oh my god. Speaking of other half, like every time I go there, I feel like they're making like a 10 or 11% beer. So somebody home with a 4-pack, and I'm sitting on the train. I'm like, I want to drink. I'm just like sitting on a train. And I drink 2 of them. I'm like, feel so cool and like, pretty dry. I'm like, god damn, man, like holy.
Yeah, that
2 pilsners, I think, would have been the right move. Train beverages,
right.
It's interesting, but does it have like legs to be a huge thing? I think you're seeing more success with the ones that are like adding fruit, but doing it in a way that it's only like 2 to 4 grams of the total mix up. And I think there's run room for that. I think that makes sense. I mean, look at in the NA category like Spindrift or something like that.
Right.
That's huge. Like adding a little bit of real fruit also seems healthier too.
Yeah.
Is it? Not really.
Is it? Yeah. No, not really. But
Secretly better. I mean,
yeah.
people. There's a lot of ways to cope with modern society, and some white lies aren't the worst thing in the world.
Fair enough.
Going.
Anything else you'd want this audience that we're building to know about your products? Just kind of.
I mean, I just think what if you see a Backpack Brands product, I think what we stand for is innovation. Not only in the flavors we're producing, we're constantly trying to innovate the quality of our products. We're constantly trying to identify new consumer trends and test them or be at the front wave of those consumer trends.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Kyle. Have at least 1 or 2 more segments with him to share in the coming weeks. So more cider to come. But as a reminder, subscribe to the YouTube channel here and head over to bravenewbar.com to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. All right, see you next time.